We all have situations, experiences, and moments in our life when we know deep at our core we have to do something different. We have to pivot. And regardless of how big or small that pivot is, it requires us to change something in our life. And that change can feel really uncomfortable. However, it is that change that is creating something entirely new. And it is that newness that creates a very different way of life in one area or multiple areas of our life. What's this all about? It is all about reinventing thyself. My name is Michelle Shutter, and I'd like to welcome you to Reinventing Thyself. I am so glad that you joined me today because it is here that we'll move beyond our old self, our old identity, and that trailer of garbage from the past that we like to pull into the future, but really need to ditch that hitch. It is here that we'll move into that place of reinvention and embracing the newness of it all. Are you ready to step into reinventing thyself? Because guess what? It is never too late, and your time is now. Let's get started. Welcome to Reinventing Thyself. My name is Michelle Shutter, and I am thrilled that you are here today because today we are going to talk about one of the biggest pivots that people can go through. And that pivot is in terms of your career, in terms of making money, in terms of a transition that you're looking for in some area of work. And today we're going to dive into K.I.S.S, Entrepreneurship. Now, you may know what K.I.S.S stands for, right? Like keep it super simple. That's how I like to refer to it. But some people refer to it as keep it simple, stupid. And that just doesn't resonate with me. But what does resonate with me is keep it super simple. And, there comes a time in our life where our job, our work, what we're doing to generate an income just isn't fulfilling to us anymore. And we feel like it's time that we have to pivot in some way. And that pivot, that transition is all about reinventing yourself because you can't step into something new being the same person. You have to reinvent yourself. And it doesn't matter what that pivot is directing you to. A lot of people want to step into that leadership role of building a business, becoming an entrepreneur. And there's so many different ways to do that now. And online is really opens the doors for so many people. And let's face it, 2020 was not a year of security for a typical job. So many people have had to pivot and learn something new and do something different and develop different skills so that they can pivot. But let's face it, that pivot is not exactly always a walk in a park, right? Can be super scary at times. And I experienced that myself. It wasn't necessarily 2020, but in 2015, I left a teaching career that I had been an elementary teacher for 20 years. 20 years, that's a long time. And to think I'm going to pivot then and move out of that. Yes, that was absolutely one of the most terrifying things in my life because, we have 4 kids, raising 4 kids and, raising 4 kids isn't just, there's no money tree growing in the backyard, right? Let's face it. But here's the thing, that career was sucking the life out of me. It wasn't fulfilling to me anymore. I felt like I was out of integrity, trying to teach what was mandated to me, yet I knew deep in my heart I had a gift to teach. But sometimes my hands were tied. Most of the time, my hands were tied to do things that I truly wanted to do, and yet keep everything that I was supposed to teach in the day. There just wasn't enough time in the day. And so, yes, I pivoted. I moved out of that career and transitioned into a whole different industry, which when I look back, like that was a gift in itself. So when you leave one industry, so in my case, when I left the education industry and moved into the financial industry, specifically the mortgage industry, holy smokes, like that was financial intelligence on steroids, right? Like I have learned so much in that process. And yet at the same time, is that position completely fulfilling to me? No, it is not. Because I'm a people person. I love to be around people. I love interacting and serving people. But I know I landed there because I had things to learn. I had a lot to learn in that whole financial arena. So it certainly was a blessing that I was there. Now, in that process, like I've always had this place of me of, becoming an entrepreneur, creating things for people, and really sharing my gifts in a way. But here's what happened. Like there are so many shiny objects out there that it is so easy to get distracted. And the thing is, like, I love all of them. Like I love learning about new tools. I love learning about new strategies. I love learning things that specifically can reduce my time and create more efficiency in my day. However, again, like that takes time, and in the end, it can become a distraction. So when I went through this whole transition that took most of 2020 to uncover for me, and when I launched Reinventing Thyself, it was all about that K.I.S.S entrepreneurship, keeping it super simple. And that's what I want to share with you today, because when I reinvented myself, when I rebranded myself, when I rebuilt a business plan, keeping it super simple was the focus in it all. Okay. I wanted things to be super simple. Why? Because I still have kids in the house. Not everybody's at college. Now, 2 of them are starting to come home, so things are going to get mixed up again. And I have to have a way to really create efficiency in my day, to maximize my time, and to keep things super simple. So what I did was I went through 3 questions, and I'm going to share those questions with you today in hopes that perhaps this will allow you to become more focused and create something that is super simple for you as well. So those 3 questions. Question number 1 was, how do I want to deliver my content, my talents, my gifts to allow people to experience me? Now, obviously that's for you. So how do you want to deliver your gifts, your content, your talent so that people can experience you? Now, there's 2 ways, right? You can do it offline or you can do it online. Well, offline, then you're looking at, workshops, seminars, lunch and learns, networking groups, meetups, all those different kind of places so that you can get your talents, your gifts in front of those people. If you're doing it online, then it is some sort of social media platform. Maybe it's video, podcast. Maybe you're a great writer writing blog posts. Maybe it's just social media posts that you can write things that deeply resonate with people. Whatever it is, you want to sink into the one that feels most aligned with you. And it may be more than one. And I'm going to share exactly what I'm doing to give you an idea. But if you feel like it's heavy to you, if you feel like it is a major resistance to you, you have to sink into those feelings and you have to uncover what is underneath those feelings. Because one, is it resistance because you're going through a change, you're pivoting, you're transitioning in some way, and that resistance is just like a little bit of fear showing up, that you're a little bit nervous about putting yourself out there in a new realm? Or is it resistance in terms of, my gosh, this just isn't aligning with me? And if it's not aligning with you, I'm going to tell you right now, I'm going to save you a ton of time. Scratch it. Don't push forward through it if it feels that heaviness, that it just doesn't feel right for you. So let me just use videos as an example, right? So let's say you want to do videos and you're getting, maybe hung up on the technology of it, or what do I say, or how do I look, and all this. That perhaps is just that vicious voice coming through, right? And trying to side rail you because it wants you to be safe. But if you try this and you're doing a couple of videos and you're like, I'm just not feeling it. I'm just not, perhaps that isn't the avenue for you to go. Okay. So for me, it is, I picked the platform of podcasts. So you may be listening to this on podcasts, but then I also repurposed this in terms of video as well. So maybe you're seeing this on video. Whatever the case is, I've used the same piece of content, but I've used it on 2 different platforms. Now, that doesn't mean like I'm all consuming and a time suck on those platforms. It just means I'm using it to get my message, to get my content out there. Now, as far as podcast and video, I'm using Zoom to record. I record on Zoom. I download the audio and the video. I use a tool called Camtasia to add any bumpers to it, edit it, and I really don't edit any parts of the middle. Like, I just want to keep it raw and real, but I do edit, like I take away the front couple seconds and the front and the back couple seconds just to tighten it up just a little bit. So I use Camtasia to video edit that. And then I use Podbean as my host for my podcast, and that gets syndicated to other podcasts. And I upload the video to YouTube, and that's it. Now, as far as like the thumbnails and video images, I create all that in Canva, and I've made a couple different templates, and I just rotate through those templates and just change up the title or change up the image. So once you do the front end of it, it's super simple because you have it. You have the template, and you just have to re-enter, as I said, like a title or an image. I also did use Wave Video, I believe it's called Wave.video, to create my bumpers. And so those are just the simple tools that I use. That is really it. And because I don't outsource any of this right now, I've kept it super simple so that I can go in and record my podcast, record my video, and then I can edit it lickety split. Even within my editing platform of Camtasia, I have a template created. So I don't have to look for the bumpers. I don't have to look for any of the images or anything. I just have to load the new content into it. As I said, trim the front and the back, and boom, I'm done. It's super, super efficient and super, super simple. Now, again, that may not be for you, and that's okay, right? Find what resonates with you. So that was question number 1. How are you going to deliver your content, your talent, your gifts so that people can experience you? Question number 2 that I asked myself was, how am I going to grow an audience? Because let's face it, if you don't have an audience, how do you get your message out there, right? And again, like if you're doing it offline, perhaps some of the workshops or seminars you're doing at different businesses. And what I want you to think about is, where are groups of people hanging out? It's more efficient or effective for you if you can think of those places where there are already groups of people versus trying to pull people in one at a time. So perhaps, again, it's some businesses or people, that are employing, have groups of people. Perhaps it's networking events. Again, just think about where groups of people are that would resonate with your message, your content, your talents, your gifts. and get in front of those people to start to grow your audience. As far as online, you can look at like different groups that are already established in terms of sharing your content in the groups. Again, you're going to have to check with perhaps the owner. I don't know if that's the right word, but the owner of the group to verify that it's okay to share content in there. But if it is free content, you're not selling anything within your message, the majority of the time, it's generally fine. But do your due diligence so that you don't get kicked out of the group. Another thing is perhaps interviews. So if you're doing videos or you're doing podcasts, perhaps interviewing people to get in front of different audiences. Again, it's not about the selling something in that interview. It's about serving people. So keeping that at the forefront. And then perhaps even just your own group, of establishing your own group online and inviting people into that group where you are giving content, giving value, sharing your gifts, sharing your talents. Now, as far as for me, when I redid my business plan, I really wanted to focus on interviews. And reason being is I really wanted to be of service to other people as well to help get their message out. Because people that follow me, not every single person will have my message land with them. However, if I can bring in other people, perhaps I can serve people in my audience by the gift of the person I'm interviewing. And so it really is this give and take of how can we serve people? And that's what I did in terms of creating interviews on my podcast. And actually, I haven't done my first interview yet. I'm in the process of creating that list and getting people to commit to, because I want it to be video and podcast. But if they don't want video, I can put an image over it and still run it as a video. But it's always just nice to be able to connect with a face, connect with a person when we are doing a recording as well. Okay, so the question number one was, how will I get my content? How will I share my content so other people can experience it? Question number two is, how will I grow my audience? And then question number three is, how will I communicate with my audience or stay connected with that audience, with the people? And obviously, some of this is going to overlap between all three questions, but perhaps it's newsletters, right? Like perhaps you send out a newsletter to people and you really have a gift of writing and messages, but yet within that newsletter, maybe there's even a video that you did, again, don't overdo it in terms of, I got to do it all, right? Pick those things that you feel are like you can grow into, you can get better at, and that resonates with you. Maybe it's like picking up the phone and calling people. Maybe you have collected business cards and you want to reach out to them to see how you can serve them or support them in what they are doing. Perhaps it is you're developing a group again on Facebook and you have your own group and you want to get in, have people come into that group and really connect with them. Maybe it's messages that you're sending people on social media platforms to connect with them. Perhaps you're growing an email list and you're giving content away in exchange for their email address. And that perhaps also overlaps with the newsletter as well. For me, I kept it really, really simple again. Like I built out one website page where I give away a free download, 3 shortcuts to reinventing thyself. All they have to do is enter their name and email, and in exchange, they get that free download. And within that download, I also offer a free call that they can book with me as well. So I've kept it really, really simple. I actually shut down the rest of my website because I wanted it again to be really super simple. So again, like those are the three questions I asked myself, and I encourage you to ask yourself if you are looking to pivot and move into that space of entrepreneurship or doing something different, whatever that is for you, but use the KISS method, right? Keep it super simple. So again, those three questions were, how am I going to deliver content? 1 to 2 things will probably be more than enough until you can hire somebody and outsource some of this. So I did 2 things because I can repurpose the same content. I can create the podcast and I can create a video simultaneously, and I can get that out. Number 2, how will you grow your audience? What does that look like? How are you going to get in front of new people, new eyes, so that they can experience the content? And then number 3 is, how are you going to communicate, stay connected with that group, that people, whatever that is for you, right? Like, how will you do that? Because if you don't expose yourself to them in terms of additional content, people can easily just fade off, because like everybody's busy, right? Everybody has so much going on, but you want to keep that connection going. You want to keep that communication going. So when you make that decision to transition into KISS entrepreneurship, just know that you're going to have this vicious voice that is going to peak up. It is going to at times be really soft. The volume is going to be loud and low, and at other times the volume is going to be really high and it's going to be really loud. And that voice is going to create a whole lot of judgment. It's going to create a whole lot of self-doubt. It is going to create a space where you really are not even going to want to continue at times. You're going to second guess yourself. You're going to challenge your self-worth. And I want you to know, like, it's all normal. Like, it happens to all of us. But I do encourage you to, if that is the route you're going, if you are pivoting into entrepreneurship, to create a KISS business plan. Keep it super simple, because the more simple that you keep it, the less that judgment, that distraction, that self-doubt, the worry, the judgments from other people, your self-worth, like all of that starts to reduce and stay minimal as well. And then as you start to become like really grounded in that and feeling good about things, like then you can expand again. But every time you expand, every time that you grow and you up level in some way, just know that that vicious voice comes back. It comes back. It is always there, but it's your choice how you get to tune into the volume, right? You are control of the volume. You could get to control how high you want that or how low you want that. So keep that in mind. So those are the 3 questions that I encourage you to jump into, journal about, think about, write about, get your ideas down. Like, just do a brain dump, right? Like, don't judge anything you write down. Just get it all out, put it on paper, and see what happens. See what resonates with you once you get it all out of your head. And if you're looking for support around that, and if you're looking for some shortcuts to reinventing thyself, I encourage you to go to www.reinventingthyself.com, because that download also has a call for you. There's a link in that download where you can book a call with me that we can jump into this KISS business plan. We can look at, gosh, what does this pivot look like? Is it aligned with where I want to go, and what do I want to do? And just remember, like, the journey is yours, but it wasn't meant to walk alone. And anytime we transition, anytime that we move into something that is not familiar to us, we have to surround ourselves with support, because support is the fastest way to move us forward, to keep us connected with truly what is aligned with ourselves. Yes, you can do it on your own, but just know that it takes a long time. Like time is going to be a lot different than if you receive support. So again, if you want access to those shortcuts, go to www.reinventingthyself.com. And as you're thinking about reinventing yourself, I want you to embrace the newness. Embrace the newness of creating something new that is aligned with your heart and soul, because that is the core of reinventing thyself. And don't be afraid to lean into the pivot, because the pivot is showing up because you are ready. You are ready to move. You are ready to change. You are ready for something new in your life. If you weren't, it wouldn't be showing up. Imagine that, huh? Imagine that. So go forward, surround yourself with support, and embrace the newness of reinventing thyself. Until next time. Well, what are you waiting for? Whether you've pivoted and are unsure, or you're on the verge of pivoting, there is no better time than now for you to begin. Want to know why? Because if it wasn't the right time, the pivot wouldn't have shown up. And to get you started, I've got 3 shortcuts to reinventing thyself. Just head on over to www.reinventingthyself.com and you can download it there. And don't forget to message me with the shortcut that resonates with you the most. One last thing. I know you and I are not the only ones that have leaned into the pivot. Be sure to share this with others so they can be supported too. And from the bottom of my heart, thank you for supporting me and sharing this message. Until next time.